University of Education, Winneba. I'm reading history currently and I'm a level 300 student. I'm here to talk about the topic African feminism. Feminism is a complex term that is connected to wide range concepts and controversies. Feminist author and scholar Bell Hooks defines feminism as a movement to end sexism, sexist exploitation and oppression. Hooks views it as open-ended and thus recognizes the possibility of other feministic strands outside of the definition. Hooks acknowledges that male support is significant in the advancement of feminism. Similarly, Matai recognizes the role of men in the progression of feminism and justice. Hooks' feminism is influenced by race, class, and gender. Matthias also is driven by a struggle against cultural and neo-colonist influences that hinders women's progress. So, I'm about to talk about African feminism itself. Development of African feminism. Scholars like Gabiba Badirun and Alicia C. Decker argue that African women were the first feminists. Figures such as Nana Asmau, an 18th century African princess, and her Yantaru movement to empower and educate women in the Sokoto Caliphate are considered precursors to modern feminism in Africa. African women were already deeply engaged at the World Conference on Women in 1985 and have long been recognizing each other's contributions. Others believe that African feminism is a more recent phenomenon, a response to shortcomings in mainstream Western feminist theory. Regardless of its possible origins, African feminism is not merely a response to the exclusion of the African women from the white feminist version. African women have had the ingenuity and desire to create manifestations of feminism that embrace their own background and experiences. African feminism includes numerous theories and movements that voice the realities of women in varying African communities. Women needs, reality, oppression and empowerment are best addressed via an inclusive and accommodating understanding of the generic and more general issues, as well as the peculiarity and group attitude of self-definition as women. Naomi Nkaila writes, African feminism strives to create a new, liberal, productive and self-reliant African woman within the heterogeneous cultures of Africa. Feminism in Africa ultimately aims at modifying culture as it affects women in different societies. At the same time, there exist regional, ethnic, political and religious differences that impact how women conceptualize what feminism and freedom looks like for them. While African women from Egypt, Kenya, South Africa, culture as it affects women in different societies. At the same time, there exist regional, ethnic, political and religious differences that impact how women conceptualize what feminism and freedom looks like for them. While African women from Egypt, Kenya, South Africa, Senegal will have some commonalities, there will be variations in the way they understand gender and gender struggles. Different African women experience the world in vastly different ways. One must recognize and respect these differences rather than attempting to merge all women under an unrealistic expectations of universal sisterhood. However, there is also some commonality to the struggles women face across the world. This common factor is male privilege. The modern African woman is strong, smart, and resilient. She seeks to create new possibilities for the generations of African women that will come after her here to change the public discourse around feminism. Some scholars have called for more attention in African feminist theory to sex work, the white savior complex, violence against African women, women in the military, field work with African women, same-sex intimacy, contemporality, and activist thought. Problems with Western feminism. As an ideology, feminism was not created with African black women in mind. Western feminism, a predominantly white ideology, has historically excluded the experiences of black women and continental African women. This white feminism fails to account for the particular issues black women face at the intersection of both blackness and womanhood. Furthermore, white feminism often classifies African women simply as women of color, which overlooks the African woman's historical trajectory and specific experience. In White Women Listen, Black Feminism and the Boundaries of Sisterhood by Hazel Cabby notes that white feminism attempts to deal with the normative experience of all women. She writes, history has constructed our sexuality and our femininity as deviating from those qualities with which white women, as the prize of the Western world, has been endowed. But these white women, primarily housewives, already had immense privilege and freedom compared to black women on the continent. Their African counterparts, on the other hand, have been stripped of their femininity and systematically exploited by colonial and neo-colonial forces, facing issues like female genital mutilation, child marriage, and widespread sexual violence. Black African women had to fight for much more than white women in places like the United States and Europe. Modern mainstream feminism has moved away from strictly white feminism and towards intersectionality. This is improvement upon the complete whiteness of original feminist ideology, but this shift is still insufficient to overcome the gap in the experiences of white women and black African women. Due to this marginalization, African women are often reluctant to call themselves feminists, despite their commitment to fighting gender justice. Elman Akko, a Cameroonian scholar, delivered a 2022 TEDx talk suggesting that Western feminism is incompatible with African history, norms, and culture. She argues that current mainstream Western feminism is based on the concept of individualism. For instance, a Western feminist might ask the question, how can I free myself from oppression? In contrast, many African communities are ideologically founded on the concept of we. In this communal context, a better question might be, how can we empower ourselves together to tackle the most significant culture as it affects women in different societies? At the same time, there exist regional, ethnic, political, and religious differences that impact how women conceptualize what feminism and freedom looks like for them. While African women from Egypt, Kenya, South Africa, Senegal will have some commonalities, there will be variations in the way they understand gender and gender struggles. Different African women experience the world in vastly different ways. One must recognize and respect these differences rather than attempting to merge all women under an unrealistic expectations of universal sisterhood. However, there is also some commonality to the struggles women face across the world. This common factor is male privilege. The modern African woman is strong, smart, and resilient. She seeks to create new possibilities for the generations of African women that will come after her. So in a nutshell, African feminism is a complex and multifaceted movement that seeks to address the unique experiences and challenges faced by African women. Example, intersectionality. African feminism recognizes the intersectionality of women's experiences, including the impact of colonialism, patriarchy, and economic inequality. Cultural relevance. African feminism emphasizes the importance of cultural relevance and context in understanding and addressing the experiences of women. Empowerment. African feminism seeks to empower women and promote their participation in decision-making processes. all levels. Social justice. African feminism is deeply concerned with social justice and seeks to address the systematic inequalities and injustice faced by African women. Overall, African feminism offers a unique and important perspective on the experiences of women in Africa and provides a framework for understanding and addressing the complex challenge they face. Thank you very much.